20-year-old Autumn McClure was riding in the passenger seat of her boyfriend's car in August 2024 when a loose brake drum flew off another vehicle and through the couple's windshield. They were on their way from McClure's home in Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, to drop her younger brother off at daycare in Ringgold, Georgia, when the flyaway car part struck the young woman in the chest, killing her almost instantly. McClure was pronounced dead at the scene, and her loved ones, including her twin sister Ivy, were understandably distraught by her untimely passing. She had graduated as the salutatorian of her high school just 2 years earlier and had her entire future ahead of her until the freak accident that claimed her life. As they struggled to come to grips with the unexpected tragedy, McClure's boyfriend, friends, and family are remembering her for her kindness, intelligence, and sense of humor, and as a bright light that was taken too soon. Number 20. Pan Xiaoting. A 24-year-old extreme eater from China named Pan Xiaoting died in July of 2024 while live streaming as she gorged on 22 pounds of food. She was indulging in what appeared to be chocolate cake, chicken fingers, seafood, and other items during a 10-hour binge when she suffered a stomach tear, causing stomach acid and food to leak into her abdomen. Sadly, the activity that killed Xiaoting was the same thing that gave rise to her influencer status. The morbidly obese influencer catered to fans of a trend known as mukbang, which involves eating massive amounts of typically unhealthy food on camera in a single sitting. It originated in South Korea but has become popular around the globe, including in the United States, where doctors have reportedly started to fear that American mukbang influencers will suffer a similar fate as they seek to keep their audiences entertained. Mukbang has become so problematic in China that the government banned these types of videos, but Xiaoting managed to circumvent the ban by live streaming her activities. She collapsed during her final binge eating session, and an autopsy revealed that her stomach was severely deformed and filled with undigested food. The findings indicate that her stomach had most likely burst from the unnaturally large amount of food that she had crammed into it, but authorities have remained mostly tight-lipped about the nature of the young woman's death. Xiaoting's gorging had become so severe that even some of her followers had started to express a concern for her well-being. People tried to help, but she was apparently unwilling to stop doing the one thing that her popularity hinged upon, bringing her life to an untimely, tragic, and avoidable end. Number 19. Alma Bohadana. 22-year-old Israeli tourist Alma Bohadana was vacationing in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in May of 2024 when she fell 50 feet to her death in what authorities initially classified as a mugging gone wrong. According to initial reports, Bohadana took the fatal plunge after jumping a fence while running away from a robber who approached her and a male travel companion along an elevated roadway. A passerby told police that he overheard someone shouting for help and stopped to help, but there was nothing he could do to stop Bohadana from succumbing to her injuries. She was pronounced dead at the scene, and authorities launched an investigation into the incident. The male friend who was with Bohadana at the time of the incident, named Dan Hen, initially told investigators that they were approached by a motorcycle at around 7 p.m. while on their way back from a sightseeing trip. Hen later claimed that he and Bohadana were not approached by a motorcycle, but a red car, and that the vehicle's occupants demanded Bohadana's belongings. In his third version of events, he stated that the pair had previously seen a motorcycle along the road and had worried that they were going to be mugged. He also mentioned that he and Bohadana had met while staying at a hostel. News reports revealed that Hen's varying and inconsistent claims had raised detectives' suspicions about whether he was being truthful toward law enforcement. According to the most recent available updates on the case, police are investigating whether there was any car or motorcycle involved in the incident, period. In the meantime, Bohadana's loved ones continued to grieve in the aftermath of the young woman's untimely passing. Number 18. Delry Rosario. In what could only be described as a freak tragedy, 36-year-old mother of four Delry Rosario died in July of 2023 after falling on a treadmill and hitting her head at an LA fitness gym in Kent, Washington. The woman's sister, Marissa Woods, told local station KIRO7 that Rosario had tried to slow the treadmill down while they were exercising together at the gym. While doing so, she missed a step, causing her to trip and fall, slamming her head against the machine in the process. Woods didn't know how to perform CPR, so she screamed for help. Fellow gym goers rushed over and tried reviving Rosario, but Woods accused the gym's employees of ignoring her pleas for help as her sister lay dying on the floor. Rosario never regained consciousness and was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital in honor of her selfless and giving spirit. Her heart, lungs, kidneys, and liver were donated to 5 patients in need of life-saving organ transplants. Number 17. Natalie Clark. In July of 2024, 44-year-old YouTuber Billy LeBlanc awoke in the intensive care unit. He and his partner, 37-year-old Natalie Clark, had contracted an extremely life-threatening bacterial infection called Vibrio vulnificus from eating raw oysters. LeBlanc spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital and survived the infection, but Clark died from her illness. The unusual news sparked rumors that Clark's death was a hoax, but LeBlanc was quick to dispel these claims in an Instagram video. He stated that a lot of people had been asking him questions surrounding the tragedy. He clarified that Clark had in fact passed away from an illness that was caused by eating raw oysters and denied that the story was simply a publicity stunt in order to attract more followers. In another post, LeBlanc revealed that he had nearly died from his infection. He also posted a series of photos as a tribute to Clark as he mourned her completely unexpected death. In the post, he reminded his nearly 650,000 followers to cherish the people in their lives because you may never know when it's your last day with those who mean the most to you. Number 16. Michael Raper. During what began as a normal workday at the Bar S Foods sausage factory in Lawton, Oklahoma, in July of 2011, 26-year-old Michael Raper got caught in the blades of an industrial meat grinder. He was cleaning the machine when he slipped and fell in feet first, trapping him from the waist down. Michael's co-workers attempted to free him as the grinder destroyed his legs. He remained trapped for 2 hours before emergency responders cut the machine in half and extracted him. His legs were gone, but he was still conscious and was in unfathomable agony as he was rushed to the emergency room. Michael died the next day, leaving behind a fiancé and 4 children. The company had a good safety record and cooperated with the ensuing investigation and was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing in connection with the tragedy. Number 15. Lily King. During her first year at Exeter University, 18-year-old Lily King earned excellent marks. To celebrate the young woman's success, Lily's mother, 56-year-old Aisha King, took her on a vacation to Rabat, Morocco in June of 2024. On the final night of their week-long trip, the pair dined out at the Maya restaurant and lounge, where Aisha informed the staff of her daughter's severe allergies to dairy, fish, shellfish, nuts, and sesame. Lily's father, 73-year-old Michael King, would later tell the Daily Mail that his wife was extremely clear in telling the restaurant's employees about what Lily could and couldn't eat. Unfortunately, it failed to prevent them from serving Lily a dish containing an ingredient that was on Lily's do not eat list. Shortly into the meal, the teen began vomiting and struggling to breathe. She ran outside to throw up, and Aisha attempted to follow her in order to administer the young woman's life-saving EpiPen medication, which was in her purse. But the staff reportedly refused to let Aisha leave until she paid the bill, robbing Lily of the precious minutes she needed in order to survive the allergy attack. According to Michael, his daughter likely would have survived if the employees had allowed Aisha to go outside and help Lily. Aisha later told reporters that she had asked the staff to prepare a meal of grilled chicken, vegetables, and chips that weren't cooked in oil. When the food arrived, she noticed that there appeared to be prawns in the food and mentioned to the waiter that Lily would get dangerously ill if she ate them. The waiter insisted that the prawns were just vegetables which resembled seafood under the restaurant's dim lighting. Against her better judgment, Aisha trusted what she was being told and allowed Lily to eat her food. It took 30 minutes for Lily to arrive at the hospital, by which point she had suffered a heart attack. She experienced a catatonic fit and went brain dead, leaving her family with the heartbreaking decision to say their final goodbye and discontinue her life support. Moroccan authorities launched an investigation, but updates have not been forthcoming, leaving the status of the case unclear. In the meantime, Lily's parents have devoted themselves to raising awareness about severe allergies, as well as donations toward allergy research and treatment development. Number 14. Dorothy Louise Downey. In November of 2023, 83-year-old Dorothy Louise Downey went to her daughter's house in Salem, South Carolina, to help her pack up her things to move. It was no secret that the home was more than a century old and was in poor condition, but neither Downey nor her daughter knew that there was a nearly 50-foot deep well shaft below the rotting kitchen floorboards. They learned of its existence in the worst way imaginable when Downey fell through the floor directly above it and plunged straight to the bottom. Dorothy's daughter crawled beneath the house in a desperate attempt to locate and help her mother, but her efforts were in vain. Emergency responders descended down the shaft and came back up with the troubling news that Downey had not survived. The senior citizen had succumbed to blunt force injuries sustained in the fall. Oconee County Coroner Carl Addis told local station WIFF4 that he had never seen any other death like it in his 31-year career, and the tragedy was ruled an accident. Number 13. Louise Furry. 27-year-old Louise Furry of Donegal, Ireland, was vacationing in Thailand with her boyfriend, Sam Bulmer, in January of 2018 when she sleepwalked off the balcony of her hotel room on the island of Koh Samui. She died from her injuries, and Bulmer was cleared of any wrongdoing after investigators discovered her history of sleepwalking, along with the absence of any signs of foul play. Furry had been in Thailand for just 2 days when she met her tragic fate, leading detectives to believe that her fall was driven by an unfamiliarity with her new surroundings. Shortly before her death, she had posted a photo of her and Bulmer relaxing at their resort, serving as a disturbing reminder of how quickly a pleasant situation can take a deadly turn. Number 12. Robert Overacker. Daredevil Robert Overacker wanted to make sure that he survived the biggest stunt of his career, so he spent 7 years planning precisely how he would jet ski illegally over Niagara Falls, and he hoped to do so not only in the name of entertainment, but to raise awareness about homelessness. During that 7-year period, Overacker's friends tried to talk him out of following through with the life-threatening performance, but he was undeterred, and in 1995 he decided it was time to finally follow through with his plan. Police Constable Richard Daniels spotted Overacker roughly 300 feet from the edge of the falls and begged him to turn back, but much like the man's friends, he was unsuccessful in his attempt to persuade the stuntman to err on the side of safety. Daniels later told the Buffalo News that Overacker yelled, "I don't think so," as he throttled forward with a sign that said, "Feed the homeless," attached to his jet ski. Chilling footage captured from nearby showed the moment Overacker took the plunge. He could be seen separating from his jet ski and plummeting straight downward while the jet ski continued to propel forward. Overacker's rocket-powered parachute made a loud bang, but it failed to help him in any way because it was not attached to his body. He plunged 180 feet to the rocks and rapids below, bringing his life to an untimely end at the age of 39. According to the Niagara Falls Info tourism website, someone else had packed over Racker's parachute, leaving him unaware of the fatal error. But the odds were stacked against him to begin with when the statistics are taken into consideration. Out of the thousands of people who have deliberately and accidentally gone over the falls since 1901, only 16 have survived. Those who live to see their court date can expect a fine of 10,000 Canadian dollars or $25,000 in US currency, depending on which side they went over on. Number 11. Andrea Norton. 20-year-old college student Andrea Norton loved to travel and was hoping to visit the Galapagos Islands in 2020, but she never made it there because her life was cut short the previous year during a class hiking trip to the Ozarks when she slipped and fell 100 feet to her death while posing for a selfie. Norton and a group of fellow students from Briarcliff University had traveled to the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas and were in an area called Hawksbill Crag when the tragedy occurred. According to witnesses, the young woman was repositioning her feet while taking a selfie on a cliff when she lost her footing and plunged to the ground below. The professor who led the hike had been taking his class on the trip for more than 20 years without any problems when Norton's untimely demise occurred. Norton's classmates, friends, family and college all paid tribute to her online in the aftermath of her unexpected death, which has served as a sobering reminder of how just a split second of lapsed judgment can cost someone their life. Number 10. Alexander Sasha Chechik. In 2015, Russia's Interior Ministry published a brochure about selfie safety amid an alarming rise in selfie-related serious injuries and deaths. The release of the government-issued guide came shortly after 2 men died while posing for a selfie with a hand grenade, unaware that the pin had been pulled out. A fateful moment was immortalized in a photo captured on one of their cell phones. Unfortunately, the safety brochure apparently didn't reach the hands of Alexander Sasha Chechik, who died shortly after taking a photo of himself while holding a grenade in the city of Lubinsk in 2017. He sent the image to a friend who immediately expressed concern for the young man's safety and warned him not to mess around. The friend sent another text asking Chechik where he was but never received a response. By then, the grenade had detonated, killing Chechik instantly. A source told Russia's Interfax news service that the explosion literally tore Sasha in half. Investigators theorized that he mistakenly thought that the grenade wouldn't explode as long as he didn't throw it, and ruled his death an accident. Number 9. Carol Hardy. 52-year-old Carol Hardy was driving on the East Tex Freeway in New Caney, Texas, one evening in February of 2021 when a wheel and tire flew off a nearby pickup truck and smashed through her front windshield. She was killed instantly from the impact. Haley and her 19-year-old son Caden were on their way home from the teens' baseball game in nearby Lufkin when the freak tragedy occurred. The truck that the wheel detached from was traveling in the opposite direction when the flyaway tire and hubcap traveled over the concrete middle barrier and struck Hardy. Caden was asleep in the front passenger seat at the time of the incident. He survived the accident with a hand injury and was soon discharged from the hospital. The driver of a nearby Buick, who was struck by Hardy's pickup truck during the accident, also survived with non-life-threatening injuries. As part of its coverage of the case, ABC 13 News consulted some local mechanics amid the investigation into Hardy's death. Mike Potus, who owns a local garage, told the station that if someone's wheel is about to come off their car, they should know it. In addition to hearing a loud noise, the driver would likely notice that their car doesn't respond properly to their maneuvering of the steering wheel. The vehicle would also lose its braking ability, despite the bizarre circumstances surrounding the tragedy. The teenage driver of the truck that lost the wheel was not charged with any crimes. Number 8. Ksenia Ignatayeva. Shortly after the selfie era began, it became evident that taking a photo of oneself can be a lot more dangerous than it seems. Hundreds of people or more have died while taking selfies, and that number is on the rise. Sometimes distraction or carelessness are to blame, while other selfie-related tragedies result from people engaging in life-risking activities in an attempt to snap the perfect picture. A teenage Russian influencer named Ksenia Ignatieva was attempting to do the latter in April of 2014 when she climbed a 30-foot railway bridge in the city of St. Petersburg for a nighttime photo op. The amateur photographer scaled the structure while a friend wisely chose to wait on the ground below. Ignatieva began to lose her balance as she desperately tried to maintain her grip on the bridge to avoid falling. She accidentally grabbed a high-voltage cable and electrocuted herself, causing her to fall and land on the concrete below. Her friend rushed over but was too paralyzed with shock to react to the situation effectively. Emergency responders arrived to find the friend sitting next to Ignatieva, who died from her injuries. Number 7. Gerardo Hernandez Rodriguez. On a Saturday in early July of 2023, 41-year-old Gerardo Hernandez Rodriguez and his wife spent the afternoon hiking with their 5 children at Oregon's Multnomah Falls. While ascending up an embankment that runs along the Columbia River Highway, Gerardo slipped and fell 200 feet to his death. Unable to see where he landed, the family dialed 911. By the time emergency responders found Hernandez Rodriguez about 45 minutes later, it was too late to save him. According to investigators, alcohol impairment was likely a factor in Hernandez Rodriguez's death. The tragedy happened just days before the 4th of July, and the park was especially busy as vacationers arrived to celebrate the holiday. Other visitors were left shaken by the incident, and some were afraid to hike along the trail out of an abundance of caution for their own safety. Number 6. Dr. Scott Lewis. While touring Sydney in early 2014, world-renowned American hypnotist Dr. Scott Lewis inexplicably fell from the balcony of an 11th-story apartment where he was staying. The 50-year-old crash-landed on the 4th floor balcony of another unit and died from his injuries. His sold-out performance at the Sydney Opera House was cancelled as police investigated the mysterious tragedy. It was evident that Lewis died from the typical injuries that a person would sustain from falling 6 stories, and foul play was quickly ruled out, but nobody was quite able to explain how or why the tragedy occurred. One theory suggested that Lewis was climbing between balconies, lost his footing and fell. But even if this were the case, it does not explain why the famous doctor was engaging in that activity. The late hypnotist's friend of 2 decades, Mark Kornhauser, told the Sydney Morning Herald that he thinks Lewis simply fell over the balcony railing. He described Lewis as clumsy with a habit of stumbling and bumping into things. In other words, Kornhauser doesn't think that Lewis would have climbed between balconies or jumped on purpose. Unfortunately, there will always be questions surrounding the man's death, but based on Kornhauser's theory, it appears as though Lewis may have simply lost his balance. Number 5. Jesse Sharp. Even when every possible safety precaution is taken, a daredevil is risking their lives when they go over Niagara Falls, no matter how they do it. So it was arguably a bad idea when a 28-year-old Tennessee man named Jesse Sharp thought he could survive going over the falls in a kayak with no life jacket, helmet, or any other protective gear in 1990. But Sharp believed he could survive and spent years planning the stunt, which he hoped to pull off by projecting himself far enough over the falls to avoid getting sucked into the deadly rapids below. If all went according to plan, he would then kayak 4 miles downstream to a restaurant in Lewiston in time for his 4 p.m. dinner reservation. Life jackets are typically seen as potentially life-saving devices, but Sharp saw wearing one as a potential hazard which might prevent him from escaping if he got caught in the falls. He didn't wear a helmet because he wanted his face to be recognizable to cameras. When authorities learned about the planned stunt, they diverted the Niagara River's flow to lower the water level, hoping it would stop Sharp from following through with his plan. Instead, he paddled around the rocks, took the plunge, and was never seen again. His kayak was found downstream with a dent in it from hitting a rock, but his body was never recovered. Number 4. Sanjay Shah. In a horrifying freak accident that was captured on video in January of 2024, a Chicago-based CEO fell to his death in front of hundreds of people at a company event in India. 52-year-old Vistex software firm founder Sanjay Shah attended the two-day event to celebrate the company's 25th anniversary. He planned to kick off the festivities by performing a stunt with the firm's president, Raju Datla. The plan was to lower Shah and Datla onto a stage in an iron cage using a crane. Shocking footage captured by audience members showed the moment when one of the two chains supporting the cage broke, causing both men to fall 15 feet to the concrete stage below. One of the men could be seen plunging headfirst in the videos. Datla suffered a severe brain injury while Shah injured his leg and hand. They were rushed to the hospital, where Shah died from blood loss. The kind-hearted CEO was remembered as an extraordinary leader who treated his employees well and gave back to the community. Prior to his death, Shah founded the Vistex Foundation, which provides grants to non-profits for their programming software needs. He also opened a hospital in Bihar, India, which serves members of marginalized communities who previously lacked access to quality health care. And he donated $5 million to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, his alma mater, for the founding of the school's Vistex Institute for Executive Education. Number 3. Manny Camacho. 23-year-old box truck driver Manny Camacho was traveling along a freeway in Chatsworth, California in January of 2024 when he crashed into a lumber truck that was driving in front of him. A piece of lumber fell off the back of the vehicle and impaled the young man, causing fatal blunt force injuries to his abdomen, while the lumber truck driver was injured but survived. Camacho's loved ones struggled to understand how such an unusual tragedy had occurred. His uncle, Mark Martinez, told People magazine that his nephew was an extremely safe driver and that Camacho wouldn't have been engaging in reckless behavior. And while Martinez understood that it was a freak accident, he was unable to wrap his mind around what had happened. When the story broke, the accident was still under investigation, and authorities had released limited details about the circumstances leading up to the crash. A California Highway Patrol spokesperson told the Los Angeles Times that Camacho had been speeding at the time of the collision, but his family simply refused to believe that this was the case. In a similar tragedy that occurred just months earlier, a 25-year-old Fernandina Beach woman was killed after rear-ending a lumber truck. Her vehicle struck the lumber truck as they were approaching a traffic light, causing some of the wood to crash through her windshield and into her car. She was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital.
Hey, it's Carl. Be sure to subscribe and leave your comments in the comments section below, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get your video going next.
Number 2. Mirabel Falzon. During what began as a visit to a swimming area along the Maltese coast in Marsa Scala in July of 2024, 22-year-old Mirabel Falzon was tragically killed by falling rocks. The young woman was rushed to a nearby hospital shortly after the incident occurred at around 3:00 p.m. But emergency responders and doctors were unable to save her. Harrowing footage from the accident scene showed medical personnel wheeling Falzon to an ambulance on a stretcher while holding up sheets to prevent onlookers from seeing her injuries. Falzon's boyfriend, Keith Kutajar, was with her when the deadly accident occurred. In a heartfelt tribute he posted on social media, he wrote that he did everything he could to try saving Falzon. Friends and family members were equally shocked by the loss of the young woman, who was remembered as a joyful and kind person with a winning sense of humor. Number 1. Liam Trimmer. In early 2023, 29-year-old police officer Liam Trimmer and his fiancée, Lily Watts, threw an engagement party at their home in Kalgoorlie, Western Australia. Unbeknownst to their guests, They also planned to announce that they were expecting their first child. But celebration quickly turned to tragedy when Trimmer slipped, fell backwards and cut his neck during the gathering. In an ironic and heartbreaking twist, he succumbed to his injuries during what was supposed to be an occasion marking the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Partygoers rushed into action to try saving Trimmer while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. But his carotid artery had been cut and he quickly bled out. It's unclear what Trimmer cut his neck on, and the case was still under investigation when news broke of his death. Watts is now raising their child as a single parent as she grieves the loss of her longtime partner and soulmate. Thanks for watching. What is your biggest fear when it comes to your own demise? Let us know in the comment section below.